Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Sustainability Spotlight. Today, we are joined by Kate Horodnyk from Guelph-Humber, and we're really excited to learn about all her involvement in sustainability. So if I could get you to introduce yourself as well as your role at Guelph-Humber.
Yes. Thanks, Isabel. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you. I'm so glad that I'm spotlighted. So my name's Kate Horodnyk. I work at the University of Guelph-Humber, so just kind of right next door to Humber on our campus. And I work in student recruitment and marketing department, and my role is marketing communications associate. So mainly I'm kind of behind the scenes. I always hide in like a back cubicle when I'm in the office. But I'm really responsible for our future student section of the website. So I make sure it's up to date with our recruitment events, like our fall information day coming up on November 20th. Whoop, whoop, giving a shout out. And also I work on email campaigns that go out, and I help out in any other types of like PowerPoints or slides that go on our Atrium TV.
Awesome. And so as you know, this is the Sustainability Spotlight, so it is inevitable that I'm going to ask you, how are you involved in sustainability on campus?
Yeah, so I thought about this for a while. I was like, how am I involved? Because I keep thinking, I'm not like a sustainability coordinator, so I wasn't sure how my role is, but I am digital focused, and I always promote, like every time I have a meeting with my coworkers, I'm like, could we do it on the website? Could we email it? I try just not to create a lot of waste. That's kind of something I am passionate about, I guess you could say. Hence why I love digital. I also, whenever we're having meetings, planning meetings, it's always kind of a priority of our team to kind of focus on how we can make our recruitment events and our marketing as sustainable as possible. Even if we do a printed product, we are always looking at the type of paper we're using, just to make sure that it's using sustainable processes.
That's awesome. And so that's great that you're involved in that sense on campus. And so I also want to know how you're involved in sustainability in whatever realm it is outside of campus.
My gosh, there's so many ways. So I'm not really like, I thought about this as well. I was like, sustainability. I'm like, well, I recycle, I compost, I do those basic kind of like that I feel like most people do. But then I start thinking about it, I am a huge animal lover. And that really plays probably like 75% of my life and my passion. And that's part of the reason I do adopt more of a plant-based diet. So I'm a vegetarian, and then I'm trying to move towards vegan, but there's just certain things I'm like, I'm really bad at reading like wrappers, make sure, does it have egg in it? Does it have cheese? But I really try. And it's just because I know how much of an impact that has on the environment. And just for me as a person, I love animals, no matter what type of animal. It's a wild animal, a pig, a little farm animal, or a domestic animal. I love them. And so another part of my life is that I do two kind of things. I work with wildlife, and then I work with domestics. And I've fostered and I volunteered with the Toronto Humane Society, specifically in our special species department with exotics. So anything like rabbits, rats, all the kind of misunderstood creatures where people are like, is this a pet? It's not a cat or a dog. I don't know. I really found kind of this love and appreciation for them. So that's the domestic side. And then I also have more of a wildlife side that has to do with the Toronto Wildlife Centre. And just helping rehab animals there, that we have impacted their lives, I would say, a little bit negatively with dumping garbage or our buildings that aren't created for animals not to fly into them.
So one thing that's actually pretty exciting is a lot of Humber buildings do have the bird safe glass, which are those dots that birds are able to see and not fly into. I know the Toronto Wildlife Centre gets lots and lots of birds that hit windows every year. So if somebody, was thinking of making the switch to bird safe windows, do you have any recommendations, any tips for them?
Yeah, so I would say definitely number one, if you have no idea where to start, is to reach out to organizations that are very much actively involved. So whether it be the Toronto Wildlife Centre, there's also FLAP that deals specifically with songbirds. And they actually will go after, in the mornings, and they'll go around the buildings to see if they find any injured songbirds during migratory season. And aside from that, you could even talk to people here at Humber, because it's just a wealth of knowledge around how you can ensure that your house or your building is safe. And you can even talk to, there might be things already happening in your building that perhaps you're not aware of. So talking to even your building manager and just finding out ways like that.
Yeah, and I think the work that the Toronto Wildlife Centre does is very important, because as we know, with climate change, we could lose many different species of wildlife. And so is there any tips that people, if they want to get involved, helping the Wildlife Centre in different capacities, maybe someone can't volunteer there, but in other ways, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I think just even spreading the message. So if you're following them on social media, like share their posts and get to know them. You can also donate. If you want to get a little bit more directly involved, they have a variety of different volunteer positions. So even just like being a transport driver and going back and forth, to deliver a bunch of greens that all the bunnies are going to eat over the summertime. So there are a variety of different roles, and it's a really great way to kind of give back and help out and rewarding. And especially if you directly want to volunteer, it's just an incredible experience to get to interact with animals you see. And you're like, oh my God, I can help this animal and get it back in the wild and help the ecosystem. And songbirds, especially, because so many of our songbirds are threatened, and at risk. So to be able to help those and release them back out is really great.
And so another question I wanted to ask you is, why is sustainability important to you?
It's important to me because being sustainable shows our respect for our planet. Like, I think we are so lucky to live on this absolutely beautiful planet with such diversity. And it's so depressing to see how we've impacted it in a negative way, and in positive ways too, but there's also been a negative impact. And especially towards animals, which is so near and dear to my heart. So I think everything I do really related to animals has to do with sustainability. So when I talk about domestics, I've got a bunch of animals. My dad calls it the zoo, whenever he comes to visit. So I have 2 rabbits, Gabon and Bisou. They're just adorable. And then I have 4 rats currently, and I have 3 guinea pigs who are foster guinea pigs. So if anyone's interested in adopting, just reach out to Isabel, reach out to me, and we'll connect you.
And yeah, even animals that you're fostering, they came from other places, right? You're not, animals that are being bred purposely just to make pets, like pet stores and stuff. So you're really helping out make space and shelters for other animals and helping them in need, which I think is really important to sustainability too.
Yeah. And another aspect going off of that, which people might not be aware of, and my love of like exotics, is oftentimes you see their counterpart in the wild. So you might see a domestic rabbit, and then you'll see the wild eastern cottontail outside. And a lot of people don't realize that they're completely different species. Mm-hmm. Our domestics are European rabbits, whereas eastern cottontails are what's native to Ontario. And the sad part is a lot of those animals that actually show up in our shelters are dumped. So when you think about the impact of that, is they're dumped out into the wild, they're interfering with that ecosystem. And then, so it is really great if you spot a rabbit outside that's like a white rabbit with spots on it, that's a domestic rabbit.
Yeah.
So it's always great when we get people that are able to bring them into the shelter. And then that way they're safer, and they're also not interfering with our wild rabbits and taking away their food sources and their homes. It happens a lot with turtles as well. People assume, oh, my little pet turtle, release it into the wild, it can be free. But you don't realize that like it's really done so much damage to our snapping turtles or blanding turtles or painted turtles. It sometimes is kind of overwhelming when you think about sustainability, because it's like, well, what can you do to make a difference? But I think there's just so many tiny things, and it's just starting at a simple level. When we're thinking about diet-based things, even if you like to eat meat, maybe once a week, try plant-based, just to kind of, it's good for you, it's healthy. And then also if you're, as far as animals, there's simple things. A lot of animals we get in actually get jars stuck on their head. We recently had a raccoon with like a jar stuck on his little paw. And there are things like just making sure you're cleaning out that jar really well, screwing the top on it if you have to recycle it, or just reusing that jar and using it as storage is even better. So I think just tiny little things really make a huge impact.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge with us today.
Okay.
I learned so much, and if anyone is interested in adopting any of your guinea pigs, right? 3 guinea pigs?
I've got 3 guinea pigs. They're absolutely adorable. Every time I open the fridge, they just weep for their little greens, and they really want them, and they're adorable. So.
I'll put your email in the description of this video. So if you'd like to contact Kate, you can feel free to do so.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And we'll see you next time on our Sustainability Spotlight.
Bye.